that now. Huh?
Set. You hear me?
300 second countdown. 300 seconds. Five-minute countdown. 5-minute countdown. That's 300 seconds. 300 seconds. Actually, it's a little less now, but it's all.
hospice care, but I didn't know there was a follow-up, and it sure would be nice to. I didn't know. See, that's why I come to these things. Yes, and you're pretty busy here around here. Yes. That turned out on you. So it's a need. There's a need.
Good morning. Good morning. There we go. I'm loud enough. Welcome. My name is Tyler Town. I serve as the Assistant Dean for Undergraduate Studies here at the Panama City campus. On behalf of the administration, the faculty, staff, and students at FSU Panama City, it is my honor to welcome you to this year's annual Suicide Awareness Summit. This year's theme is entitled Trauma to Resilience, Coping Through Connection. It centers on the mental health challenges faced by our veterans and first responders. These are individuals who serve on the front lines, often silently bearing the burden of trauma, and yet they continue to give so much of themselves to protect others. It's truly heartening to see so many of you gathered here today, united by a shared commitment to deepening our understanding of mental health and working together to prevent tragedy. When the summit first began in the wake of Hurricane Michael, I had the honor of working with many in this wonderful group of people on furthering a mission that is absolutely essential to our ideals as a nation, as a campus, and as a community. It has been incredible to watch this initiative grow with the guidance of our campus and community leaders. Suicide has impacted the lives of so many, including many of us here today. For those of us who have lost loved ones, who have worked with those who have struggled with suicide or have even struggled ourselves, events like today's are a message that you are not alone, you're cared for, and that tomorrow can be brighter. There is hope. Thank you, everyone, for your advocacy and for your commitment to spreading awareness for such an important and deeply consequential cause. This summit would not be possible without the tireless work of our dedicated committee members who believe deeply in the power of connection, community, and their commitment reflects the very heart of this event and of our ongoing mission. If you're on the committee, the organizational committee, would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. Finally, I'd like to express our sincere gratitude to the sponsors of today's event. And you'll have to bear with me because there are many of them. FSU Panama City Foundation, Gulf Coast State College, Perry and Young PA, Suicide Prevention Awareness Resources and Education, SPARE, iHeartRadio, Larry and Pam Perry, Frame Shaping LLC, WMBB News 13, WJHG Channel 7 News, The Drip Coffee, Nothing But Cakes, Krispy Kreme, and K Hall's Deli. Thank you for your support of this event. Your generous donations not only made this summit possible, but also demonstrates a shared commitment to addressing mental health challenges and supporting those who have given so much, our veterans and first responders. So thank you. Thank you again for all of you being here. It's absolutely incredible to see the response, especially on such a rainy day. It is my honor now to welcome Summit Committee member Pam Perry to introduce today's next speaker.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming. This is a very important event for our community, and we just appreciate everyone attending. Before we start, I wanted to mention that we have counselors available if anybody needs to speak to someone, and also my pastor is here, Christian. If you're a counselor and you're willing to speak with people today if they need help, could you stand? Thank you so much. Our first speaker is Anna Hunter. She is a Marine. She served from 2015 to 2022. She's been an active member of the organization Irreverent Warriors since early 2019. She is currently the Director of Marketing in Fort Walton Beach in the Panhandle. Irreverent Warriors is committed to building a healthy and thriving local veteran community by creating a supportive network for those who serve their country. Anna's talk today is entitled Breaking the Status Quo. Please welcome Anna.
Hello everyone, how are you doing today? As I was introduced, my name is Anna, and I'm actually a little bit more nervous doing this, ironically, than I was when I was an explosive ordnance disposal technician in the Marine Corps. So you'll have to excuse me as I kind of get used to this. I am currently the marketing director for Reverent Warriors on the HQ level, and I also have a local community where we do our events. I am a Marine Corps veteran, and I have my bachelor's in intelligence studies and my minor in psychology. I became involved with the Reverent Warriors in 2019 while I was still active duty, and I am not sure where I'd be today if it wasn't for them. I'm just going to tell you a little bit of history about our Reverent Warriors, myself, and where we are going. So in 2015, a Marine officer named Danny Maher was in the Wounded Warrior Regiment at the end of his career, transitioning out of the military. During this time, a lot of his peers and friends started to complete suicide. Obviously, he didn't know what was going on, and he really wanted to make a change and do something different. So he came up with this idea of something called a Silkies hike. Silkies, as the Marines call them, or Ranger panties, as most of the other branches call them, are these tiny little short shorts that we used to PT in that are no longer authorized. But he wanted to kind of get that unit camaraderie together again as they were all getting out. So he got a group of people he served with and put on rucks and silkies to do hikes around these towns and stop at bars and have a good time. This quickly started to gain traction as more events started popping up all over the country, and it started to get a little out of control, so he decided he needed to integrate it into a nonprofit space, and thus Irreverent Warriors is born. The mission of Irreverent Warriors is we bring veterans together using humor and camaraderie to improve mental health and prevent veteran suicide. We do this through alternative therapeutic events. Our vision is to unite, empower, mentor, and heal the veteran community while driving a healthy culture through its membership. We will disrupt the status quo through impactful events, innovative engagements, and robust support networks to enhance the well-being of veterans worldwide. Irreverent Warriors is the catalyst for positive change within the veteran community, striving to become the most effective veteran-focused organization in the world. I personally started following IW from overseas when it kind of first started in 2015 on social media while I was still active duty. Something about it called to me, and also the events seemed like a really good time, seemed fun. The camaraderie wasn't something that I had started yet to experience in the Marine Corps. I was really desperate to have it. That's one of the reasons why I joined, actually. And it's ironic because I grew up with 3 brothers. I was the only girl. I'm the only one that joined the military, and I joined the Marine Corps. I definitely had something to prove. Before the Marine Corps, I waited tables for about 8 years, and although I loved to cook, I always said I never wanted to be a cook because the hours and the labor just didn't seem like a good time. So in 2015, I went to boot camp, and when I graduated, I was proud of myself for the first time. And then I got my military occupational specialty, food service specialist. I was a cook. So I went through food service school, and I got my first duty station orders once I graduated, which was Okinawa, Japan for 3 years. I As much as it was a humbling and learning experience, it was part of a bigger plan that I wasn't aware of, as I still desperately needed to be a part of something bigger and more than myself. I went through a few courses and ended up deciding I wanted to go EOD, which is Explosive Ordnance Disposal, and I passed the screening. In 2018, I transitioned to a duty station in Florida where I ended up attending my first Silkies hike in Fort Lauderdale. I just happened to see it pop up on my social media, and I asked one of my classmates if he wanted to go. Like, hey dude, you want to drive through the night 8 hours to go ruck on a weekend? And he said, of course he wants to. So we went to the event, and I literally drove through the night to get there. We did the hike, and I immediately asked how I could become a part of this organization, and I haven't stopped since. I started volunteering 30 to 40 hours a week while I was still in the Marine Corps as the merchandise director, transitioning to different positions as I could, and I've carried on that work through today. And why? Because it works. We've sent out a survey, and it highlights the life-saving impact that Irreverent Warriors has through these communities and these events. For many veterans, the transition to civilian life can be isolating, challenging, and emotionally draining. The need for community support and purpose is paramount in reducing veteran suicide, which takes about 22 lives per day in the U.S. Our new survey, analyzing the impact of Irreverent Warriors and programs, reveals just how life-changing this community has been for thousands of veterans. We currently have over 100,000 alumni with annual membership of about 15,000 and over 150,000 social media followers in which we're trying to create a community. Now, I had injured my back before during a course, and I would pretty consistently throw it out and deal with my pain as my career continued. I was too proud to go into medical because I had a lot to prove and there was a stigma. So I would just deal with it. One of these times in 2020, I'd throw my back out again. I went to medical to go get some muscle relaxers, and then proceeded to join the squadron ruck the next day because I was too proud to go on light duty, which meaning I wouldn't have had to join the PT. After that ruck, I couldn't even stand up straight, but turns out that was just the beginning. It took me nearly 5 months to get imaging, begging the doctors to see what was wrong, and when they finally took an x-ray, they said, well, we're gonna have to send you to Portsmouth, Virginia, which is a 4-hour car ride away, because we're worried that if we do any work on you, we're gonna paralyze you. So I ended up needing back surgery in order to prevent a spinal fusion before I was 35, and that did not go well, in addition to 2 other procedures I needed to get, all severely negatively impacted my life. At this time, I was on at least 12 different medications, all for pain, and then other issues that started occurring. So picture this. I had just lost my career, my drive, my health, my pride, my paycheck, and my community. I was on a multitude of medications whose side effects happened to cause increased suicidal ideations and alcohol cravings. I was alone, I hated myself, and if it were not for my community that I created with Irreverent Warriors, I don't know where I would be, because I was not myself. Our goal is to prevent someone to ever getting to that place where they need a crisis response. One of the best analogies I've kind of heard about this is the dying garden. It's much harder to try and save a plant that is already at the end of its life due to neglect, lack of nutrition, etc. So we have decided we want to focus on building an environment where the plant will thrive, making sure it gets water, enough nutrients. And because if there is a healthy environment, the plant's chances of survival are incredibly inflated. As I said before, we conducted a study of qualitative before and after survey data that was conducted on all 2024 IW volunteers and newsletter recipients. It has a 90% confidence level with a 10% error margin, and the results will demonstrate the substantial positive influence that IW has had on veteran mental health. 57% of veterans reported their suicidal ideation fully stopped or significantly improved after attending IW events. 65% of veterans saw their feelings of despair fully stop or significantly improve. 41% of veterans who previously struggled with substance abuse saw major improvements after joining IW. 40.12% of IW participants are female. 11.3% of females are veterans, or of veterans are female. One of the reasons why this works is because we have a unique approach to healing. Unlike traditional mental health programs, we bring veterans together in a way that feels natural and familiar, through humor and camaraderie and shared experiences. The flagship Silky Psych, and we're starting other events as well, foster deep connections that go beyond just a single day. We are creating an opportunity for that lifelong network. Veterans who have attended IW events reported a renewed sense of purpose, belonging, and resilience. The ability to connect with others who truly understand their struggles without stigma or judgment has been life-saving for many. Suicidal ideation. Before IW, 34% of respondents reported experiencing suicidal ideations at least monthly. After participating in these events, 57% saw a significant improvement or complete cessation of these thoughts. Despair and hopelessness. Before IW, 50% of veterans reported experiencing daily or weekly despair. After, 65% reported significant improvement and 8% fully stopped experiencing despair. In terms of hopelessness, 56% saw improvement and 18% reporting a complete elimination of hopelessness. As for substance abuse, before, 22% of respondents engaged in daily or weekly substance abuse. After attending, 41% reported improvement, with 35% fully stopping substance abuse. Some of the participants shared their experiences, such as, IW helped me rediscover the sense of brotherhood and purpose I had lost since leaving the military. I went from barely having anyone to talk to having more people than I can count who I can depend on. IW is not just an organization, it's a family. It's a tribe that lifts each other up. Before Reverend Warriors, I had no sense of purpose, no clear direction, and now I'm stronger, more confident, and surrounded by people who truly care. Why does this matter? Well, the veteran suicide crisis is a critical national issue. We've had about 60,000 casualties in the military since 2001. Over 160,000 veterans have died by suicide since 9/11. While many organizations are working to address these problems, our approach is unique and effective because we're building an organic, peer-driven support system, making a tangible difference in the life of those who served. Last year, the Department of Defense, or WAR, spent about $200 million on increasing suicide prevention through traditional methods. And you know the result? A 12% increase in active duty military suicides. The status quo in suicide prevention is not working, and our survey for IW is confirming what many in the community already knew, is that veterans heal best when they heal together in traditional ways. Looking forward, we're remaining committed to expanding our programs and reaching even more veterans in need. Our mission is clear: no veteran fights alone, and we will continue to break the status quo. So if you or a veteran could benefit from our incredible community, now's the time to definitely get involved. Healing happens there, and every veteran deserves a chance to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And if you're curious about it, you can check out irreverentwarriors.com. We also have many, many local communities all across the world actually now. And it's something that has saved my life as well. So thank you very much. And I am about to have to leave very quickly for a flight, but I have time for a couple of questions if anyone has any.
Is there a program for the family members of the attempted or completed suicide?
So we have the Silkies hikes themselves for participants are for veteran and active duty only. However, all of our other events, the families are welcome to come, and we encourage the supporters or patriots to volunteer at our events so that they can kind of become a part of the community no matter what. But our focus is definitely veteran-centric, but I do know of other organizations and everything like that that focus on the suicide survivors. And actually, that's the conference that I'm going to in DC. It's a Suicide Summit with Angel Force. So if you or someone you know is a suicide survivor, you can also check out Angel Force. Her mission is stopping suicidence, which is the silence around suicide, which is the stigma that people have when they don't talk about it. Yes?
When you have events, do you have like counselors on site too, or is it just groups together, camaraderie, so, and that's the groups?
It's groups. We don't have licensed counselors. We do have a partnership with Stop Soldier Suicide / Roger, and they are our crisis response, but we are focused on peer-driven communities and peer-driven support. Yes?
Is your organization in every state, and are there enough offices to help the entire state, or are they going to your military bases, or how does that work?
Well, so a fun fact about Irreverent Warriors is we're a grassroots organization. I only came on staff this year. There's about 3 staff members. Everything else is completely volunteer-led. So we do have lots of chapters. I don't believe that they are in every state. We have multiples in several states. I believe we have about 5 or 6 here just in Florida. Those are just led by local members, local veterans usually of the community that we have put through our training process in order to help build them up and make them successful. We actually only recently got our brick and mortar essentially, and that's in St. Louis, Missouri. You're welcome. Yes, I have time for one more question and then I'll have to run.
Where's your closest chapter?
That would be me. It is Irreverent Warriors Emerald Coast, and there's local Facebook groups as well for those communities if you want. We're on the social medias, of course. But yeah, it would be Irreverent Warriors Emerald Coast. You're welcome. All right, thank you everyone. I really appreciate it. I have stuff over there if you need.
Ted, I'd say I'm hot, but that sounds a little, probably not good at this point. We had probably, the intro to community resources is supposed to happen at 9:45, which means you've got about 10 or 15 minutes if you want to get some more sustenance, if you will. If you need to use the restroom, you can do that. If you need to walk outside and enjoy the bay, I think it's slowed down just a little bit. You can actually stand under this canopy right there and enjoy the ambiance. So we would encourage you to do that. We're going to start the community resource at 9:45. So.
This is like a
and I have the honor to introduce our esteemed resources that make a huge difference in our community every day. Their boots on the ground making a difference, and I'm so grateful to see so many of y'all here to hear our wonderful speakers that are helping us to make a difference in our community and our loved ones. And so we have 28, which is incredible resources here today. So we're only able to give them a brief moment, 1 minute, to give their elevator spiel. So I am really sweet, so please don't make me have to pull the Yang cube off the microphone.
She can be sweet, I'll be unsweet.
So what we want is the organization's name, the location or coverage area, the basic services provided, your clientele, and like a referral process, like if it's refer, self-refer, or need a referral, and contact information. So that's a lot in a minute. And so here you go.
Hey everybody, I'm Jacob Gilbertson. I'm with Banyan Treatment Centers. We are a substance abuse and mental health treatment provider. We have 7 locations in Florida. We serve civilians from detox to inpatient and outpatient as well, but I do have military and veterans in recovery program. I also have first responders. We can do mental health or substance or dual diagnosis. We do provide transportation. I take most major insurances, including some Medicaids, the VA Community Network, TRICARE. You can come see me over here. You can come see me at my table. I do also work with families. If you're kind of wondering what to do with your loved one that's struggling with addiction or mental health, I spend a lot of my time getting resources. Also, if you don't have insurance or you don't know, I can also help with that too. So I'm just a guy in long-term recovery that likes to help people. So thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Woohoo!
Good morning. So I'll be brief. I'm here representing for Go Christian Magazine, which is a local magazine that is delivered locally from Mexico Beach all the way to Destin. The purpose of the magazine is to encourage others in their faith and their belief. All of the articles that are written in there, the resources that are in there, are all local, all the way down the Emerald Coast in Northwest Florida. Anybody that is interested in connecting with the editor, Patty Smith, lots of our cards are out on the table. There's lots of editions of the publication for you to take with you, and I'm happy to talk with you at any point.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is David Champion. I'm a community outreach coordinator for PanCare Behavioral Health. PanCare is a federally qualified health care center. We serve the area from Franklin County over to Walton County, most of the counties in between. We do medical, dental, vision, behavioral health, pharmacy, medically assisted treatment, vision. So we provide a lot of different services where we can treat the whole person. Recently, we had a request to do some counseling down in Gulf County because they'd had a rash of suicides. We took one of our mobile units down and were able to provide some crisis counseling, and I believe we actually saved some lives. We also give out Narcan. We have given out about 20,000 in the last year, so just let us know. We can get you what you need. And anyway, I guess that's all I got time for.
You are awesome. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brandon Connors. I work with the Single Alarm Project. We are all over Florida, but we did start in Tallahassee, Florida after Hurricane Michael. We do offer training and education for first responders, families, everybody from rookie school to retirees to ensure that you have a healthy lifestyle. Training and education is virtual and online. We do offer a lot of support, everything from peer support teams, canine programs, inpatient services, outpatients, leadership services, chaplaincy programs, anything you need for mental health services, we are available virtual and online. We do also work with UCF Restores. They are our new partner, and yeah, they fund us, and we look forward to working with them. So.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Roberts. I'm with an organization called Be Smart. So it's an organization that teaches secure gun storage, both to prevent like accidental shootings in children, but also in relation to suicide prevention, domestic violence. It is a nationwide program. I think I'm the only person that teaches the classes now in this area, but I can teach a class to pretty much anywhere, anyone. So if you're interested, you can get my contact information at our table in the back.
Thank you. That's great information.
Hi, I'm Jen Richardson with CARE, which is Chemical Addiction Recovery Efforts. We offer residential, outpatient, and detox services to those that struggle with chemical addictions like alcohol and opioids. We cover the 6 counties in this area, and we have a residential, our men's residential here in Panama City, and our women's residential in Alfred, and then our detox center is here in Panama City also. It is, people can just be self-referred or referred by, sometimes they come from prison, sometimes they come from the doctors or from the hospital. They need to have an evaluation done and be medically stable, but other than that, if they don't have the evaluation, our outpatient facilities can do that for them and help get them the help that they need. Everything is done on a sliding scale, so we take insurance, but those that don't have insurance will work with them to get them the help that they need. Thank you.
Hey, good morning. My name is Marianne Roberts, and I'm with NWF Health Network, and we are the lead agency for child protection and the managing entity for behavioral health. There's no way I can tell you what we do in 1 minute. Would never happen. However, what I did want to share with you is this great tool that you can get at our table. This can connect you to all of the resources for mental health and substance abuse that we fund through NWF Health Network, so they're NWF trusted providers. Can also connect you to NWF Health Connects, which is a resource that all of these different programs that are standing in line here can make sure that their information's in there. Type in your zip code, and you can pull up food banks, legal services, all the things like that. It's got a text line for students to text if they're feeling stressed out or anxious, and fatherhood resources, Narcan locator, all these mental health programs. So please come and see us at the table.
That's like a little social worker and a little folded little pamphlet.
Hey, good morning. My name is Mary Stabile. I am the alumni coordinator / community outreach person for Journey Pure Emerald Coast, located in Panama City Beach. We also have locations in Tennessee, Kentucky, but I work at the one here locally in Panama City Beach. We have 5 levels of care from detox through outpatient services. We also work with the Veterans Community Care Network as well. We take most private insurances. I'm new to this, I have to look at the cue card, sorry. And so you can self-refer. You can also get my phone number. I'd be happy to help send somebody in if you know anybody that's struggling with substance use disorder. I also coordinate the alumni program itself, so we provide support for a minimum of 1 year after treatment for every patient that comes through our doors. I also organize local events to help our patients stay connected to other like-minded people and continue to cultivate connections that will help them in their recovery. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Sarah Winchester. I'm here representing Shatterproof. We're a national nonprofit. We're live in 14 states, Florida being one of those. We are a non-biased, free community resource. We have a treatment platform, and it's treatmentatlas.org is the website. We list all the licensed providers in the state. It's not a pay-to-play. We're funded by DCF, so it's just a free community resource for people looking for substance use disorder treatment. If you're a provider and with a facility and you're not listed, well, you probably are on there, but we don't have your program details. I invite you to stop by my booth and please make sure that we have your program details so we can get your facility listed. And if you're working with the community, such as a case manager or a therapist or providing any services, please stop by so that we could be a resource for you, because it's just a great resource to be able to help people find quality treatment. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Denise Montford, Executive Director for Angel House Bereavement Center. We provide clinical grief counseling to children, adolescents, and adults who have experienced any type of loss related to death, life transition, and change. We do not take insurance, but we have a very generous sliding scale based on income and number of dependents. We're located in Panama City, but we cover other counties too if other people from other areas want to come. They can self-refer, or we do take referrals from providers as well. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Polk. I'm with Crystal's Health. We are statewide. We're one of the largest providers of behavioral health services in the state of Florida. That's home-based, school-based, and telehealth. So as we say in nursing, we provide from pediatrics to geriatrics, starting at the age of 3. If you come by and see me, you can pick up one of these. It tells you about the services that we offer. On the back is our referral process. And there's also a code on here so you can just scan it and pull up our website and see all of the wonderful insurances that we do accept, including Medicaid, and we have a sliding scale. If you come by and see me as well and you leave your card, it's rainy today, but I have sunshine on a rainy day. This is a beach therapy pen. There's actually water and seashells in this thing. So if you leave your card, you have an opportunity to win this, and it'll be sent to you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kayla Williams. I'm with Department of Children and Families. I'm in the Northwest region. We cover 6 counties: Bay, Washington, Holmes, Calhoun, Gulf, and Jackson. Our services are Access Florida, which helps with food stamps, Medicaid, cash assistance, child welfare, adult services, substance abuse, and mental health. Also, Department of Children and Families is statewide, so the requirements is of Florida residents. And then we have, with food stamps and Medicaid and cash assistance, there's requirements for income-based, but that is about it.
Good morning, I'm Marcia Kroom with the Gulf Coast Sexual Assault Program. We fall under the Gulf Coast Children's Advocacy Center. We are a twofold program. We are on-spot support for a sexual assault, and we cover that in Bay, Washington, Holmes, Jackson, Calhoun, and Gulf, 13 and up, and then we cover 18 and up in Okaloosa, Walton, Santa Rosa, and Escambia. And we have a SANE nurse 24/7 and a victim advocate, and we provide, we can do the exams at the hospital or in our office. Law enforcement does not have to be involved if you're over 18. Then we also offer all of our services are free trauma therapy to adults who are abused as children or adults even abused as adults and just need something to work through. Come get all of our amazingly cute swag, has our hotline number on it, 24/7, 365. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ernie, and I have with me Donna, Dina, and Larry. We're from the Alliance of Therapy Dogs. The Alliance of Therapy Dog organization is an internationally registered organization that certifies and registers its members. They provide it, all the dogs are insured. We are volunteer. We do not get paid for going out with our services. All of our dogs are insured. There are personal dogs that we bring out to the community. We go to all type of venues. We regularly go to Sims Veterans Home, Ascension Bay, Encompass. We go to a lot of local events, the Boys and Girls Club, the schools. So we stay very busy. And around Halloween, you'll probably see us at a lot of events. But we'll invite you to come over to our table. You can see some of the pictures of our dogs, and as you'll see, we have a variety. But we're always looking for members who would like to be part of this wonderful program.
Good morning, everyone. Please be patient with me. This is my first time doing this. I am a case manager at the Life Management Center. We are focused in Bay County, but we cover all of Circuit 14. We are a mental health community center that offers inpatient, outpatient, and just opened up a residential treatment facility. This is like transitional housing. We help both children and adults, and if they do not have insurance, we use a sliding scale. We're not going to refuse anyone. We're going to try our best to help them. You can come to 525 East 15th Street in Panama City to Building C, that's our administration. I encourage you to go to our table to learn more. I'm also representing SPARE, Suicide Prevention Awareness and Response and Education. Focused in Bay County, our goal is to spread awareness of suicide prevention resources in our community. They meet at on the first Thursday of every month, LMC Family Services Building. You can also find them on Facebook. It's just called SPARE. Also, please go to our table. We would love to tell you more. That's all. Thank you.
Hi, we are here representing AA. Trish and I are with Alcoholics Anonymous. We're located worldwide, basically, and this disease doesn't differentiate between anyone, children or adults. Everyone is welcome. Everything is free. It's a great program to get involved in. We have our Where and Wins at the table that gives all the information on phone numbers, where we're located, and we're daily. We have meetings every single day, and thank you for letting us be here today.
Good morning. I'm here with the Emerald Coast area of Narcotics Anonymous, and my name is Aaron, and I'm an addict. Our area spans from Santa Rosa to Weewall, but as a whole, we are worldwide. Our message is hope, and our promise is freedom from active addiction. Our meetings are open to anyone that feels that they suffer from the disease of addiction. A schedule for meetings and other resources are available on our website, emeraldcoastareana.org.
All right, good morning. I am Michelle Smallwood with your Gulf Coast LGBTQ Center. We are your local organization that caters to the LGBTQ community from Tallahassee to Pensacola, but our brick and mortar is right here in Panama City. You can come knock on our door, call us, email us. You can be self-referred or referred from an organization or a provider. We do have transgender support group, family and ally support group. We cater to our youth, 13 to 17. They meet every week. We are your local Pride organization, so if you went to Pride this year in downtown Panama City, we were the host of that Pride and have been hosting it since 2018. So if you want to volunteer, we are constantly looking for volunteers. We need money too, but that's not today's topic, so volunteer with us. We do have a table right next to the drink station, so I got the good table right next to the coffee and the juice outside. So stop by and see us. We've got a lot of swag. I always say take swag for yourself, for your friend, for your office. GulfCoastLGBTQCenter.org.
Good morning. My name is Matt Standish. I'm a retired Air Force First Sergeant, and I work for the VA at a very special office called the Vet Center. We are federal, fully funded, no cost for our service, but we're also completely independent from all the rest of the VA. And the service that we provide is a counseling service, primarily focused on post-traumatic stress, whether it's came from combat service, sexual trauma, dealing with casualties, deploying to a natural disaster site. The beauty of it, though, because we're so independent, is first, the veterans that come to us don't have to be in the VA system at all. Plus, for over 10 years now, we've been seeing active duty members, National Guard, reservists, and we are one of the few places in the VA that regularly sees family members as well. The main thing, though, is we provide a safe place where a veteran or troop who won't talk to anybody, they can go to any vet center in the country, pretty much just walk in. They get connected to a licensed professional counselor who may also be a veteran, but then most importantly, is nobody will ever know. So please, stop by my table, grab a brochure, and I knew I'd run late.
It's never a good idea to follow Matt Standish, but my name is Laura Anzaldo. I'm with the Gulf Coast Veterans Healthcare System, otherwise known as the VA. VA, of course, is a national healthcare system serving veterans who have earned those benefits through their military service. VA has medical care, specialty care, behavioral health, but the program that I work in is the suicide prevention program. I specifically focus on the community in terms of building our community's capacity to recognize people at risk for suicide and to respond appropriately. So I do training, I provide technical support, I provide materials, I do things like serve on planning committees and help to put events like this together to really enhance our community's ability to meet the need and to provide appropriate services and just to do a better job and save lives. Lots of information at the table, things that I can also give you in bulk if you want to take to your office, share with clients that you're coordinating with and all of that sort of thing. My mission is always to work with community providers and make our system of care better. Thank you.
I'm Mel. I'm with 211 Northwest Florida. We have the local call center for 211, the local call center for 988, and the local call center for the Florida Veteran Support Line, so I'm going to speed talk through the rest of this. 211 is an information referral line for community resources. Everybody needs help sometimes, and we don't always know where to look. 211 has the information for where's local rent programs, who can help with food, who can help with utility assistance, where are the local clinics at. So that's 211, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, nationwide. 988 is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline's evolution. We'll talk with anybody across the board from anxiety, depression, suicide, mental health, substance abuse. Call if you need to talk with someone. We're there 24/7 to connect with folk. The Florida Veteran Support Line is a program for veterans, by veterans, because I'm not a veteran, I don't have that lived experience. But our veterans on staff do have the experience of dealing with getting their compensation paperwork, about returning to the community after service. I did it. 3.
I'm Matt Moon. We have the Hope Project in Fountain, Florida. We have a 25-acre horse ranch up there. We got 14 rescue horses that we do equine therapy with. Our main focus is veterans, military, first responders. We're doing all groundwork right now. There's no riding involved. We have our PTSD and TBI group every Monday, 14 to 1600. We have a Bible study on Sunday at 1500. We go to the Sims Nursing Home every Thursday, and we're linked up with many of the local organizations we do with children and individual therapy. All of our services are free. We addiction programs, and there's most of the organizations in the area all know us and work with us. Matt Standish from the Vet Center, they come out on our TBI group on Monday and PTSD group, and you can find us on Facebook and hopeprojectinc.org.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Erin Picard. I'm school liaison at the Navy base. That's that awesome little space over there across the bridge to the left there that says Go Navy. That's us. As a school liaison, first of all, every school liaison is at every base. So every base that you see, we have a school liaison. What do? We take care of the military family. When they come in, they PCS, they go to places, we talk about the schools, we talk about the community. And I know what you're thinking, what are you doing here, my dear? Well, the reason why I'm here is to not only get resources, but also to share the resources that we have for our military families. I've got my trusted friend Tracy over there from the CYP, the Child Youth Center program, and I also have, sorry Joel, I'm going to do a shout out, my MFLAC, my Military and Family Life Counselor, Joel over there. He's the boots on the ground, he goes to schools, he takes care of our military dependents and military families. He's also retired Army/Air Force and a chaplain, so God bless you. If you guys need anything, we have a table over here. We are here to support not just you guys, but also the community. Boom! Did it. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Carly Garrett. I am with the Mobile Response Team, or MRT for short. We are with Life Management Center. We are a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis services team. We deal with suicide, homicide, behavior changes, anything that's derailing a person's normal life and they're unable to continue. We will show up on site wherever you are. We are consent driven, 18 or older, we need consent. Parent or guardian, we need consent. We are heavily involved with the schools. We work very closely with law enforcement. We cover Circuit 14. 12 seconds, guys. Our phone number. It's 850-522-4485. You can press 7 or extension 1833. There's stuff on the table out there. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. It is really remarkable the services that we have in our community, and they are truly the boots on the ground and in the trenches, and I can't thank them enough for everything that they do and for taking the time today to come and share with us. So please go and visit them, pick up their swag, get their information, and thank you again for being here.
So get used to this mic distance. So at this time, you actually get to get up and go to their booths and get the information that they talked about. So we'll be coming back in, let's see, what time does it say? 10:40. So another break for you.
to an AFSP event is, in a sense, finding your people. And I say that where at first it can be very scary and nerve-wracking. Your anxiety might be going through the roof. It can even be triggering to some people where it might take up a lot of nerve to go to an event, whether it's a walk or International Survivors Day, whatever event it may be. And it could, because it brings up emotions of the past. It can bring up, anxiety moments of like the unknown, what's going to be said here? Am I going to be judged? But once you're in the event, and you're, like I said, you surround yourself by people who have gone through something similar, who are not afraid to talk about it, it's just that sense of comfort that I'm not alone. It's okay to think what I have thought during my time of grief and healing, and for some even to do what they did during that time of grief and healing, and it's just this community, this family, and a family that, for some people, again, they don't see themselves and certainly don't want to see themselves being there. But once you're part of this welcome and inviting culture and family, it's that sense of comfort.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am so blessed that you all get to see me today. How's everybody doing? Good. I am absolutely amazed at the turnout today. I really wanted to stop just for a moment and say, please, 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 let's give you all a round of applause. So before we get started or continue, I would like for us to all pause and let's just do something together, right? And that is, if you want to participate, please do so. If not, that's okay. But just relax for a second. Put both feet firmly on the ground. Relax your shoulders. Now just take a real short breath in and a very long exhale. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Today's conversations are real and heavy. If at any point any of you need a moment, please feel free to step out of the room. My only ask in that case is please give my buddy Mike back there a thumbs up to let him know that you are okay if you're stepping out of the room, okay? We gather in rooms like this because trauma is not a headline, it's human. Many of us carry stories as survivors, loved ones, clinicians, educators, leaders, and advocates. Our goal isn't to rush past aches, it's to transform it responsibly into connections, skills, and hope. Trauma describes what happened. Resilience describes what's possible. When we say trauma, we mean the body and the brain's response to overwhelming stress that exceeds our capacity. When we say resilience, we're not saying be tough or move on. We're talking about the renewable capacity to adapt, to connect, and to access supports that restore safety and meaning. With that comes a key shift from what's wrong with you to what happened to you and who supports you. Resilience grows in systems, not in isolation. 3 evidence-aligned proactive factors consistently matter. Belonging, at least one trusted, consistent relationship. Skills, practical tools, coping plans, safety plans, help-seeking scripts. And finally, pathways. Clear, low-friction access to care, peer support, clinicians, community resources, and culturally competent options. Trauma narrows choices. Resilience reopens them. Think of today as a relay. The baton we pass in skills, support, carries us through the pace of the race. Take 30 seconds to finish this sentence in your notes. One thing I can do this week to strengthen resilience, my own or someone else's. If you like, turn to someone near you and share just that action, not the backstory. Because small actions compound. Micro shifts become momentum. If you or someone you know is struggling in the U.S., you can call or text 988 to reach Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And remember, helpers need help. Supervision, debriefings, rest, peer support are not luxuries. They are safety equipment. From trauma to resilience is not a slogan, it's a practice. Let's carry forward a posture of care, a bias for connection, and the courage to act. Thank you all for the work that you do. Let's continue. At this time, it is my honor to welcome to the stage Michelle Lawrence, who is a licensed mental health counselor and a master-level certified addiction professional. She serves as the lead clinician for Second Alarm Project. Michelle is one of just a few endorsed cognitive processing therapy providers in the state. She has focused her clinical efforts on treating, listen you guys, I'm gonna stop right there because this is way too small for me to see. Michelle, please take your place on the stage.
Thank you very much. If you wouldn't mind, please, we would ask that if you would take your camera and capture this QR code. We will ask that you do a summary or your answers to this survey at the beginning, and I will have another one at the end. We are very data-driven, so we appreciate your participation. Continue. A lot of what I'm going to share with you today, I want to say I feel very fortunate to be able to come up here and take the information that we have gathered. It's very important that we start talking about the things that not only military but first responders tolerate. Again, as it was said earlier today, we have to keep talking. So I want to welcome you to this conference, talking about suicide, talking about mental health difficulties. I'm hoping that there's more of these conferences that come available throughout the state of Florida and beyond, because we need to reduce the rate of suicide, not only for civilians, but for everyone that serves our communities. This is a little bit about me. I have done a lot of clinical work with military and first responders, and more recently with the Second Alarm Project, focusing on first responders. The correlation between military and first responders is that a lot of times military, once they retire, will take on a first responder career. And so we recognize that, but with my time with the Second Alarm Project, it actually initiated right around 2019 in Pensacola, shortly after the NAS active shooter. I participated in the debriefing that took place after that, where I met Dr. Kelly O'Dare, who is the founder and director of Second Alarm Project, and currently has merged with UCF Restores, which is a trauma clinic on the Orlando campus that serves military and first responders for free with PTSD. And their numbers for success of people that enter the clinic and then subsequently leave the clinic with no PTSD symptoms is extraordinarily high. I believe the last rate was around 86%, people leaving treatment with no PTSD significance. I like to talk about being culturally competent. Clinicians, sometimes, you know, we sit in our little corner of the world, right? We know what we know. But a lot of times what I've learned over the years is when we deal with the cultures of military and first responders, we don't know what they know. We don't understand what they go through. We don't understand the engagement during deployment. We don't understand when we see an accident on the side of the road what that white sheet really means, you know, after an MVA or MCI. And we need to know. We need to know what haunts our clients behind their own eyes. There's a clinician awareness program that's sponsored by the Florida Firefighter Safety and Health Collaborative. It's a 2-day course. It puts you out in the field, whether it's through the fire department or the police department. They have both. I like to encourage clinicians that desire to work with first responders to get involved in these types of classes. Be there in your community. Go to the fire department or go to the police department and ask to ride along. Ask to be involved. You will gain a plethora of knowledge, and not only that, but you're going to bridge a gap. Second Alarm serves all these populations, and I'm very glad that we are able to recognize that it's not just law enforcement, it's not just EMS or fire, but it's the 911 telecommunicators, right? They are the ones that receive the first call. It's the people that do the investigations, that see these things or watch these things and have to tolerate these memories over and over and over again. And it's also the retirees. We have significant data that tells us that retirees suffer, and sometimes it's the beginning of their suffering because they are no longer involved in the job that they have poured their life and identity into. Here's a little bit about our services. We also like to take a look at not only education and training, but being there to help design, promote, and sponsor peer support teams, peer on peer, the people in the departments that know and understand each other. And because of that, they are highly necessary to maintain that level of mental health capacity. They understand one another. If I could train peer support teams throughout the country and take myself out of business, that would be a great day. Here's a little bit about what we're going to talk about. I am going to touch a lot about trauma, how it affects the brain, how it affects behavior, and end up telling a little bit more about resiliency and ways that we can have post-traumatic growth. This page talks about the statutes that we have in Florida, and we've by no means have reached the end all of these statutes. These are beginning competencies that Florida allows our first responders, the first one being the PTSD bill, which means that it doesn't have to be a physical injury. It can be now a traumatic injury if they need to retire or get any kind of workman's comp. The peer support bill is a great one too. If a person is allowed to become part of a peer support group and get properly trained, they are protected with confidentiality. They do not have to report to administration. They do not have to reveal the nature of these peer support conversations. But I do emphasize that training must be attached to their title for this protection to take place. And then, of course, the last statute that talks about how to do critical incident response and debriefing appropriately. I'm going to show you a little video about the importance of being uncomfortable. How we can use stress to our positive.
The stress and how we have to look at stress, okay? And I think it's an important thing because many people have told me from my lectures it's the one thing they remember, okay? I was sitting in a dentist's office and looked at an article that said, how do lobsters grow? Well, I don't care how lobsters grow, but I was interested in it. And it points out that a lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside of a rigid shell. That rigid shell does not expand. Well, how can the lobster grow? Well, as the lobster grows, that shell becomes very confining. And the lobster feels itself under pressure and uncomfortable. It goes under a rock formation to protect itself from predatory fish, casts off the shell, and produces a new one. Well, eventually, that shell becomes very uncomfortable as it grows, right? Back under the rocks. And the lobster repeats this numerous times. The stimulus for the lobster to be able to grow is that it feels uncomfortable. Right? Now, if lobsters had doctors, they would never grow. Because as soon as the lobster feels uncomfortable, goes to the doctor, gets a Valium, gets a Percocet, feels fine. Never gets off its shell. So I think that we have to realize that times of stress are also times that are signals for growth. And if we use adversity properly, we can grow through adversity.
I like that video because, we are also squishy, mushy animals. And we have to learn how to get out from under the rock and grow and shed our shells, right? That hard shell being stigma, or that hard shell being the inability to tolerate adversity. We want to grow. We want to grow into wellness. We want to take a look at the opportunity to take our stress, take our level of uncomfortability, and say, I've got somewhere to grow towards. I want to be well. I like to ask a lot of people, when you think about the word mental health, what do you think of? Most of the time the answer is, well, somebody's crazy, or they're not right. I like to take a look at mental health more as a level of your happiness. How happy are you? Because what do we want for ourselves? What do we want for our families? We want to be happy. I want my family to be happy. I get up every day looking for some sort of happiness, and when we're not happy, how do we gauge that? How do we contribute? How do we pour something into it? So looking at our happiness as a measure of our mental wellness, that is what can drive us towards saying, you know what, I really want to do something about my happiness. And taking the focus off the word mental health. Let's make it about happiness. I don't know if you've ever watched any of Simon Sinek's TED Talks. He's a wonderful, wonderful capture of themes and ideals about mental health. And one of the things that he talks about is his why, or anybody's why. Well, the purpose of my why is really to bring information like this to people, whether you're a clinician, whether you're a first responder, whether you're military, anybody, anybody that needs to understand that life should have a why. What is your why? Well, my why in my professional stance is to help reduce the level of suicide in first responders and military, to help tell people that you don't need to suffer in silence. People should not be living with PTSD. There's ways that we can make those symptoms either deflate or be eliminated, and we don't talk about that often enough. So being here today is part of my why, to get this information out to you so you can take it further and share it with the people that you know and love. Let's not suffer in silence. Like working with any organization that's driven through university backing, we want to do a lot of what we do, we want to do because of data. And so when we go about doing our work, we are always aware of the type of numbers that are out there. If you're a clinician, you might be familiar with the life events checklist. And we use a lot of that to determine what exactly is driving some of these symptoms that are connected to PTSD or moral injury, which I'll talk about later. And as you can see up here, and of course we're taking a look at EMS and fire service just in this example because it's the data that we have more enrichment of. And the connection that we've drawn because of this data is the connection between human suffering and anxiety. Take a look at the exposure, right? It's not about necessarily it happening to them, but them being exposed to it. I think a lot of times what people say is that, well, other people have it so much worse. I might have this with me, but it's not as bad as what that other person might be struggling with. And, you know, trauma, which I'll talk about several times, it's an inside job. The way we experience trauma is our own, and it is valid. You know, we hear so many times on the news or in articles reporting what goes on in our communities. Do we ever think about what it's like to be exposed to assaults, GSWs, things of that nature? What is it like for that person that responds to these calls? What is it like for them when they walk away? This is where we take a look at the connection between the exposure to these types of experiences and substance use, because let's face it, you pour a little liquor on your problems and you get immediate relief. That is why when it's Friday, well, I've had a hell of a week. Let's go out and have a few, right? Let's just take a load off. It's that first line of I guess, choices that we take to reduce our stress. And how can we be a lobster if we're not taking a look at why we're uncomfortable? So in the data that we collect is driven from these 5 categories. Of course, we've collected data that's related to what you see here: PTSD, depression, anxiety, harmful alcohol use, and high suicide risk. So there's, of course, the PCL5 for those clinicians out there that are aware of some of these measures. PCL5, the PHQ-9, the GAD-7, and the audit. I do believe they used the Columbia, or to be honest with you, I don't remember which assessment they used for the suicide risk. But take a look at how this compares to the general population. These people are walking around with some severe symptoms, and they don't have the opportunity or the outlet, or because they wear a badge, or because they carry a gun and are fearful of the repercussions of talking about it. They keep it inside themselves. So who are we talking about when we say first responders? We're talking about a group of people that have a very particular set of mindsets, a very particular set of characteristics. And I think one of the things that comes to highlight the most is that they are fixers, they are problem solvers. And if you fit this description, what's it like when you've got a problem and despite your best efforts, you can't fix it? You've tried and you've tried and you've tried. You've done everything possible, but you're not going to ask anybody for help because you probably don't even know how to. Or if you even think that you're going to, how does that feel? It feels pretty uncomfortable. It feels almost defeating. So I'm going to just try again. I also find that when first responders of this nature, find that they try their best, they put forth their truest efforts, and they're pretty good about falling down and getting back up, hitting adversity and pushing through it. But what happens when you or anyone really, first responder or not, takes that hit emotionally, mentally? You fall down. You get back up, but then you fall down again. And then you get back up, and then you keep falling back down. What do you think that's going to do to your sense of self, your sense of resiliency? And for just a small moment, you can see why suicide can be an option, why suicide all of a sudden becomes a part of their mental processes. I can't be this person that I have been. I'm not the version of myself that I truly desire to be because I'm supposed to be resilient. I am supposed to be a fixer, and I can't. Another thing that can also be part of what goes on when a first responder is out there is, what do they bring to the table? What kinds of things have they experienced in their own lives that kind of create a little bit of a caveat in how they cope, in how they see the world, other people, and even themselves? And so we call these adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. And ACEs are very important to understand because when a first responder goes out into the field and they see things that maybe they are familiar with, for example, abuse. Maybe they grew up in an abusive home themselves, or maybe they knew of an extended family member that experienced that as well. How do you think it's going to be when they walk into a home where there are obvious signs of abuse and their ability to intervene or mitigate is very, very limited? They're going to recognize things. They're going to understand that what's going on, whereas people that might not have experienced that might not see those cues. It's going to affect them. Neglect and household dysfunction, right? All similar categories as far as what does that first responder see when they walk into that house or on scene? What information are they taking in? And I'm highlighting this because this is one of the ways that their experiences impact them, impact the way they think, impact the way that stimulus that is now somehow creating a story inside their own mind and the way that they have to respond mentally to what's going on around them. As was already defined, trauma is something that's clearly defined by the individual. Of course, we can talk about, lowercase t trauma, right? Things that are just stressful and shake us to the core. But then there's big T trauma, seeing things that the human mind was not capable of seeing. When there is an automobile accident with casualties, what is it really like? On TV, what do we see? Maybe the head slumped over, right? And they just are lifeless. But more often than not, when a first responder comes on scene, that's not the way it looks. More often than not, there's body parts missing. There's things that are supposed to be on the inside of a body now on the outside. We weren't designed to see that. But first responders have to go in there, do hands-on, and take recovery or even attempt to resuscitate these individuals. It's going to impact them, but yet this is their job. All right, so let's talk a little more about the brain. And when we talk about the job that the first responder does, it starts really with the tones dropping or that call over the radio. That it has now been linked to their response. So the tone or the call triggers their one part of the brain where the sympathetic nervous system resides, and that's in the amygdala, right? It's stimulus-based. That tone or that beep or that call over the radio indicates something is going on and it's bad. And you can see the amygdala in that pink area. It lights up. It tells us to do the freeze, fight, flight, and of course, first responders, they fight, they go forward. And what we know is that when the amygdala turns on, the cognitive part of their brain, the prefrontal cortex, is diminished. It is not at full capacity. Biologically speaking, you can't be in emergency and sit back and decide, what should I do next? It doesn't work that well that way. And so when a first responder is en route going to their call, what you're going to see happen is that they're going through the training process, that muscle memory is taking over, that ability for them to engage in what's coming next is starting. That amygdala, or the sympathetic nervous system, is taking in information from their five senses. What they see, hear, taste, touch, smell, or maybe the environment that they're in. All of that information is being collected by that part of the brain because it is then what it associates or attaches to the response that or the stimulus that they're receiving. The prefrontal cortex, of course, is, like I said, limited. But what we know from taking a look at how the brain functions, if we want to go back to baseline, if we want to get that prefrontal cortex, that ability to think, that ability to communicate, to restart, we want to talk. We got to get ourselves talking. But it's not about what happened. That really isn't it. What we want to talk about is, how did this impact you? What was your takeaway from what you just experienced? That is what is really going to make a difference. When we can talk about how things impact us, how it really affects our lives, the way we think, the way we believe, the way we react to our surroundings, we are actually now creating an understanding of what went on around us. Because then at that point, when we can create that ability to understand fully the full perspective, our brain is then going to take that memory and send it to the hippocampus. This is where we store our memories in a correct and healthy way. So this is where I'll say to people, if you've ever had a traumatic experience, and if you allow yourself to think about it, sometimes you can go right back to that moment, whether it was a month ago or 10 years ago. You knew exactly what went on. You knew exactly what the person was wearing. You might even know personal data about the situation you were in, location, tiny details. But last week you can't remember what you had for dinner. The brain keeps track. This is where people say, you know, this memory is so overwhelming, it's so negative, and it sparks so many emotions that are difficult to tolerate. I'm just going to get really good at compartmentalizing. Well, what we know now is that compartmentalization, it's good for the moment, right? It allows you to do your job, but long term, it is actually what drives PTSD symptoms. Escape and avoidance are key factors into why PTSD escalates in intensity and frequency. So again, compartmentalization is not the long-range habit that we want to endorse. We want to be able to allow a person to say, this is my story and I'm sticking to it. And we want to let them hear their own story out loud. We want to hear it with them. Because in doing so, that gives them the chance to not only reevaluate, but challenge their own experience. Have you ever been involved in something stressful? You talk about it, and all of a sudden, maybe your story changes a little bit. You see things maybe a little bit differently after the fact. Now, if you ever had an experience or have worked with law enforcement, people that deal with violence and those sort of reports, when they get on scene, they take an initial report. But what do they do a couple days later? They go back and they interview again. They interview a second time 2-3 days later because the story is now going to be more accurate. Why is it going to be more accurate? Is because the victim at the time of the call was in their amygdala was on. The fight or flight was still going. That sympathetic nervous system was protecting them. Their cognitive features were reduced. They weren't able to think about it, understand it in a full context. Their accuracy might have been limited to whatever it was that was within their own tunnel vision. Given them a few days to not only recuperate from the incident, maybe have the chance to talk about it a few times with family or friends, they all of a sudden see the bigger picture. And when they give their second statement, that is the statement that is more accurate and definable. And so a lot of times we want to take a look at what we're doing in the moment. If you're a provider with crisis, understanding that that story is probably going to embellish, and that second story is probably more accurate than the first story, keeping that in mind. But again, if we understand that talking about it helps, that compartmentalization is not the way to go, what you understand is that if you can take that memory, allow the hippocampus to put it in its rightful place, we can think about it, we can talk about it with less severe reactions. Our hippocampus is telling us that this is a past memory. It's not going to trigger our amygdala to make it seem like it's happening all over again, because we've already processed it correctly. We also talk about not only being exposed to trauma, but repeated exposure to trauma or potentially traumatic events. This also takes a toll because it almost seems like first responders live in this alternate universe where in their district, their call area, these things seem to be happening all the time. And the rest of us that live in that same community, we're ignorant to, we're oblivious to what these emergencies are or how often they are occurring. But for that first responder, it seems like it's all the time. How does this affect them? Well, it affects them in how they parent. It affects them in how they do relationships. I know more first responders than not refuse to have a pool in their backyard because they've been to too many drownings. Or when their child turns 16, it's not a no, it's a hell no, you're not driving, right? And it's certainly not letting them do the things that the rest of us who are unaware of what goes on would allow our families to do, whether it's on a vacation or driving down a certain road in the community, right? Too many memories, too many understandings of what goes on. It's also seeing things that aren't supposed to happen, right? And so we're kind of sliding into this concept called moral injury. Children shouldn't die. Children aren't supposed to die, but yet they do. People shouldn't be treated the way that they're treated. Spouses aren't supposed to beat each other up. Spouses aren't supposed to be fearful of their own house or own surroundings, but yet that goes on. A whole bunch of scenarios where this wasn't supposed to happen. And what is it like for a human being, any human being, to be in the position where they have to see this over and over again? It's one of those things where it's, you start to doubt yourself. Maybe you feel guilty because you can't do more. Maybe there's anger because, we have this just world myth, right? If you're a good person, good things are supposed to happen to you. And if you're a bad person, you're supposed to get punished. But how many times do bad things happen to good people, and how many times do bad people go unpunished? The world just doesn't work. And we have to teach our kids to do the right thing, right? Otherwise we'd have chaos in the world. And because we're all taught that being good gives us the right kind of livelihood or the right kind of life experience, when we get older and we see some of these things or become a first responder and experience some of these things, it messes with our understanding of how the world should work. The biggest part here is that desensitization, our inability to process these big emotions or the never-ending cycle of some of these experiences. And this is where, you might see first responders kind of, become angrier or more intolerable or isolated, right? They just don't know how to process what they have to go to either on every third day on their shift or, on their series of shift cycles, right? Especially if they have or assigned to certain districts or call areas where some of these incidents happen at a higher percentage. And then they become cynical. So here, we have some of these sayings which, are, of course, can be quite humorous, but it's almost, again, like that part of that universe that first responders move into. Some of the cynicism, comes to the level where they'll say, I really don't care about first world problems. Or they'll come home and the ketchup's on the wrong shelf in the refrigerator and they freak out, right? Nothing's done right here. Well, the reason that some of this is driven is because a first responder is guided by standard operating procedures or standard guidelines. Everything they do on a job is driven by a series of events, training that they go through repetitively so that when they respond to a call, they know exactly what to do, how to do it, and how to execute the results that they're looking for. But unfortunately, when we go home and live with families and in relationships, we don't have any of those SOPs or SOGs. There's no book written on how to do relationship or family well or in order. And for people that thrive on order, because that's what saves lives and that's what keeps them afloat, when they go home and there's disorder, right, the coping mechanisms tend to fall apart. I think moral injury in the first responder profession is, if not just as important, but probably exceeds the level of what we call PTSD. Again, that repeated exposure to things that should not happen. The symptoms, I believe, are about the same. The impact on the person's ability to have quality of life is about the same. But of course, moral injury is not a diagnosis. It's a state of being. And of course, this quote here by a firefighter, and while this person provided the insight of what they think repeated exposure to moral injurious experience is like for him, I don't think that that is exclusive to firefighters. I think EMS, all first responder individuals can identify with what this person is saying. The biggest negative outcome of moral injury is the inability to alleviate, right? Again, when I spoke a little earlier about saying, I've fallen, and I'm talking obviously through a mental capacity. My mental capabilities right now have fallen. I'm not as on cue, or I'm not as squared up as I usually am. And despite my best efforts, I still have this anxiety, or I still have these depressive symptoms, or this desire to isolate, or this desire to do something that is not the version of myself that I truly desire. It's not there. And because it's not there, I don't feel that I'm living at my capacity. I've fallen. I can't get back up. Now who am I? Now what good am I? What am I bringing to my family except for maybe a burden because I'm angry all the time? And the little stuff, all I can do is snap at my kids. That's not the kind of parent I want to be. I don't treat my spouse the way I used to, and now we're having difficulties. What good am I? I go to work, I make a mistake. What good am I? Sound familiar when we talk about symptoms leading to suicide? And then just to make it all worse, right, a first responder's work life is deeply, deeply interruptive to what goes on at home, the missed birthdays, because, right, their job is 24/7, the missed holidays, not being able to take care of their family, but being there to take care of other people's families, people they don't even know. Right, and not having that close connection, right, just drives some of these symptoms even further. And how does it affect the family? We can't complain about these things. We can't say these things. We no longer have that ability to communicate freely. We got to watch it. So why don't they get help? So this is our other data that we've collected, and again, a lot of this information was given out or distributed in around 2018, 2019, and we sent these questionnaires to, well, actually it started in Panama City, and it was brought to our attention that some of these questions need to be asked fire department, and then we decided to not only put this information or gather this information here in District 14, but we decided to go through the whole panhandle, so from Escambia County down through Suwannee County. This is the data we collected from first responders, and I will say this information probably just from the fire department, fire EMS collective. If you're a clinician, think right now, what can you do? How can you practice? How can you be that difference to let them know how to, or to educate them? How can we connect? What is it that you know that maybe they don't, that can help them say, the stigma doesn't have to be this strong. We can work together, and we can take some of these barriers to care and create them as myths, and start to debunk some of these myths for them. That is why when, if you're a clinician and you do decide to work with first responders, you have to know how to manage suicidal thoughts. You have to know how to manage the symptoms that are indicative of PTSD or related concerns, even with substance abuse. I will say most first responder agencies, military as well, what happens when something good happens? Let's go out and drink. What happens when something bad happens? Let's go out and drink. What happens if it's a day that ends in Y? Let's go out and drink. It's part of their culture. Some of the stories that first responders have to say and do have a desire to share are stories that are very brutal, very explicit. And a clinician that does have the desire to work with first responder needs to understand how to listen, how to allow that story to be told, and to look that person in the eye and say, I'm here, I'm listening, and there's hope. We have to be able to look them in the eye. I have not yet to the date ever sat with a first responder or military personnel that had a story to tell and thought they were weak. Because when that person is ready to tell their story, they're crying, they're shaking, they're essentially falling apart and probably saying for the very first time things they've never told anyone. I do not call that weak. And then what happens is they apologize to a therapist while they're crying. And I tell them, if you can't cry in therapy, I don't know where else you can cry and make any good out of it. And besides, it's part of my job description. I make grown men cry, and I'm good at it. So let's sit together and walk through this path, and let's walk through it together, because I am going to look you in the eye and say, we're going to get better. It's going to be hard work, but you're going to get better. Resiliency is not necessarily a frame of mind. It's a way of being. It's practice, things we do, things we incorporate. Sometimes we can call resiliency self-care. What are you doing for yourself that puts a smile on your face? What are you doing for yourself that allows you to relax and enjoy the moment? What is it that you do to balance out that stress and combat it with something that gives you rest and relaxation? It's got to be a habit. It's got to be part of your routine. It's not something you think of once in a while. That's not resiliency. So think about it. Do you have a routine? I know I do. And a lot of times that I use a routine, it's because I don't want to forget anything. I want to make sure that when I get up in the morning and I go to work, that I have all the things that I need to take with me. I have all the things that are going to happen, that I don't miss a beat. I have a particular routine about when do I check my calendar so I know what's going on in the day. I have a particular routine to make sure that I don't forget the little stuff. And what does that do? It calms my mind. Because when you forget something and somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, I texted you the other day and I haven't heard back from you. Or we were supposed to have a meeting today and you didn't show up. That's terrible. I don't know how you feel about missing those little things, but it throws me for a loop and I feel like I've failed people or didn't live up to my end of the agreement. Think about a person that is living with PTSD type stress or moral injury. Think about how they could just alleviate some of their own pressure by establishing a simple routine. That's resiliency. There's an organization called Boulder Crest, and they provide a training called Struggle Well. And I'm going to bring in some components of Struggle Well because it really does emphasize resiliency. It really does emphasize how that first responder, that type A personality, that fixer, that person that really wants to do for themselves when they're struggling, it really fosters that post-traumatic growth. I can grow through adversity. I can actually be the right kind of lobster. Educate yourself. Where are we getting our information? Is it social media? Probably not a good source of information on how to cope with stress. Is it a person that endorses stigma? Probably not a good source. Educate yourself on things that align with what you need. And if you can't find it in the person on one side of you, continue looking, because maybe the person on the opposite side of you does have that information. Know your resources, whether you're the individual or whether you're the professional. Think about these thoughts. Take a look at these examples and ask yourself, do I have these thoughts? Because if you do, this is how your experiences are impacting you. This is what we can treat. I'm being told that time is a little on the short side, so I'm going to kind of push through a little bit of the slides. I apologize. Breathing techniques, meditation, really easy and direct way to combat the central nervous system. Gratitude. Despite all these bad things happening, I can still be grateful for the good stuff. In the Struggle Well campaign, they talk about the wellness triangle, and I'm going to just kind of highlight this. It's mind, body, and spirit. It's also according to finances, right? What is the biggest stressor out there, right? When you don't have enough money, when you're not taking care of your financial well-being. So again, a strong mind. Sleep. What is the biggest killer of mental health? It's a terrible night's sleep. A strong spirit. Making sure that you're feeding yourself. Social connection. We are social beings. We thrive on connection. We are born into families. We live and integrate with friends in our schools and our communities and our jobs. We hang out in clubs and associations with like-minded people. Human beings were meant to connect. Peer support, I spoke on that earlier. I'd go into addictions, but there's no time. But some of the symptoms of high levels of stress, chronic stress, can show in the form of addictive behaviors. I'm just going to summarize here. If you are a clinician, I highly encourage you to become evidence-based in your practice. Don't rely on talk therapy. People that are experiencing things that I just described to you need hard work. They need working therapy to get through what they're working on. Please do your own research, whether it's EMDR, dialectical behavioral therapy, cognitive processing therapy, exposure therapy. Don't be just trained in it. Don't just be exposed to it. Be fully competent to provide that therapeutic intervention that is going to actually take these individuals from hurting to healing. Just some quick statistics about suicide. And basically what we're talking about is suicide is a larger killer to first responders than their own line of duty incidents. We need to kill that. Biggest indicator of suicidality in a first responder: relationship problems, substance abuse, and decline in work performance. 54% of individuals don't even have a mental health diagnosis to be struggling with suicide. We have to be comfortable with the understanding that suicide is a possibility for any individual, but for first responders, it's heightened. Sorry, I'm going to go through all this, but I've been buzzed. Are there any questions?
Okay.
One second.
Hold on. Let me rush back. make sure that we can hear the question. I know, sorry, I've been told by the media people.
So I'm just wondering, because my experience with EMDR, I mean, it is a very overwhelming and emotional, trauma-informed therapy to go through. So you would recommend that for somebody with multiple traumas, or is it something that if they only had one or two to work through?
I would say EMDR, because of its uniqueness, has been very helpful. I think the clinician needs to know the type of individual that they're working with before suggesting EMDR because of its unique nature. There are some individual, and I think EMDR, when a lot of shame and guilt is involved, can be very effective because that person can process that internally. Processing guilt and shame externally can sometimes be counterproductive, but that's a short and generalized answer to your question. I know that at UCF Restores we do exposure therapy, and people say, why should I re-expose myself to that therapy? Wouldn't that make it worse? It actually does not. It actually desensitizes. It gets that sympathetic nervous system back down to baseline because cognitively you're able to override the stimuli and see it for its bigger picture. So a lot of the evidence-based modalities for post-traumatic stress disorder to a lot of people are almost counterintuitive. Why would I want to do that to myself? But it is actually what the brain needs to heal. Yes, I'll just let him come to you.
Okay. It's not a question, but more of a hopefully helpful. My husband's retired federal correction officer, and one of the best pieces of advice he got was, when you retire, make new friends outside of the career you retired from, because then you're not exposed to the same kind of thought process and thinking. You're with different people. And I'll give you an example. He's about racquetball people, Optimist Club, and I think that's what's helped him also with what he was exposed to in the federal correction.
Yeah, I think that's correct, but I would say that start that in your career.
Oh, yeah.
Don't wait till retirement. There's a lot of significant data, people that, and within the first 5 years of retirement in a first responder career, the rate of cardiac fatalities is extremely high.
I'm loud, I might not need it.
I think it's for recording.
Real loud.
It's not for these people.
All right, so I'm part of a statewide SISM response team, and we also do peer support, but we do this within the child welfare system. We've been trying for a long time to get our employees looked at the same way as first responders, and so we just want to know if there's anything that you've heard about in the state or nationwide where people are looking at our child welfare employees, our child protective investigators as first responders, or looking at this sort of data for them.
Great question, because there's, I mean, even in the nursing world, right? The dentistry world, there are so many professions out there that we need to start looking at. It's underserved. I mean, 911 telecommuters were only added, I think, in the last year or two, and who would not have thought that they shouldn't have been involved from the beginning?
Same thing with our hotline.
Yes.
We're sitting here
Yes.
looking at telecommunications, our hotline staff.
Anybody that does sex crime investigations, all that stuff. Yeah, it's a shame that we don't have that, but here we are, working on it, getting the word out there. Anybody else?
I just got a question about your experience. I'm recently retired military, worked with SF in the last utilization and dealing with PTSD, and just the effectiveness of, most of the time you think of PTSD working with the individual, but conjoint as couples. Have you had experience with that, or there was some research I've looked up and the effectiveness, but I just wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, I will say, you know, PTSD is kind of become a blanket term for people experiencing stress and trauma, which is, you know, there's a little T in the big T. It's not to discount trauma, but, you know, we do want to preserve the fact that, you know, a person in the military that's seen combat and have had, you know, parts of their squadron or troop, you know, battalion pass away, and that survivor's guilt and all the things that go along with combat, you know, and then of course the type of trauma that comes from, you know, the extended family having to live in some sort of fear, which is stressful as well and traumatic, but we want that to be aligned appropriately. And you know, if we can treat the capital T, we can definitely treat the small t, and there's no shame. There shouldn't be, and it's what I like to do when I come to these, you know, and speak on this topic, is we have to share that there's right people out there that can get us help. We just have to take that step, and it's a big step, which is again why, you know, if you're a provider and you're in your office and this is a calling to you, get out of your office, go to these people, be at their functions, because they have conferences, they have things they do for the community, right? The stair climbs, the you know, for when they commemorate, you know, memorials and things like that. If you're a provider, go bridge that gap.
Probably time for one more question. Going, Vice President. And
Well, thank you for listening. Please, if you wouldn't mind, the second part of this, we use this data for research and, of course, future funding. So it's very important to us. And, you know, again, educate yourself. Go out there and know your information. And if you don't know where to find it, ask somebody. But thank you. Have a great day.
you know, everybody's at a different place. You've got people that the challenges that we all experience are going to be different. They're going to be separate. They're going to be unique. And so hopefully this has given you some more information to take with you, whether it's professionally, whether it's individually for you to work in your community. Could be your neighbor. Could be somebody you come in contact with at the racquetball club, okay? There's so much going on in life when lifing is happening, okay? Sometimes it just takes, unfortunately, I'm going to use the word, it takes time. And I would encourage everybody, I had sent out to the board members, the committee members on to the committee. We had a speaker last year that sent us some information, some research that had been done on media, multimedia, and how that has affected and how it affects everybody. And one of my things here for everybody would be that we spend a lot of time, maybe not everybody, but these little things that we got right here, we think that we're tied to them. We think that these are the, man, I can't go without it. You know, everybody's got to get a hold of me. But I understand some of that stuff. But what it does affect is the time factor. You know, when I talk to youth, they don't have relationships. We're not building relationships. You know, we're not allowing that sincere truth, trust, connection, okay, happen. We get busy, man. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. You know, somebody just called me and I've got to go talk to them too. And so I would encourage you, check your time. When you work with people, talk to them about their time. Because really connecting with that person that's sitting next to you, that awareness, that's what's going to help address, if you will, you know, this issue of suicide. You know, the idea is that we talk about it. I mean, that's the awareness thing. You know, we need to talk about it. But if I don't have the time to really connect with somebody, I'm not talking about it. I'm just going through life. I'm just doing my own thing. And I'm not sure that I was put on this earth to do my own thing necessarily. I think I was put on this earth for relationships. And so, you know, my purpose, somebody said something about, you know, purpose. What was your purpose? In fact, it was Anna with the Reverend Warriors said something about what your purpose is, and I thought, and I came to this conclusion for myself a long time ago. I was put on this earth to be a dynamic as far as change. Keeps me going, keeps me running, you know. And I didn't introduce myself. I'm Michael McLaughlin. I work in the counseling center here on campus. And I've been doing social work probably for 20, 25 years in a lot of different aspects of that field. The opportunity that we have, I think everybody knows. You know the opportunities you have and those people that you come in contact with, okay? And nobody else can do that but you. It's not about, hey, well, they can do it. You know, send them to the counseling center or send them to this agency or that agency. The fact is that you can do that. The fact that you're here, that you're sitting here, okay, tells me that each one of you has what it takes to do that. And so I encourage you, you know, take the information. Hopefully it's been helpful. Hopefully it has been something that has been beneficial to you, you know, to move forward, to take positive steps in life, you know, and address something that we don't want to talk about. I mean, I can talk to a lot of fellow therapists, but I can tell you in the 25 years that I've been doing social work, okay, the suicide aspect has always been kind of pushed to the side. You know, that trait, well, how do you deal with it? We don't always focus on that. Let somebody else do it because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to really get in somebody's space and say, hey, you know, you're thinking about it. When I have to deal with a student here, okay, that deals with it, you know, I am not a full service center. Right now, it's just me, myself, and I. Even though we did hire another therapist, I'm excited. Yes, go, okay. But the reality is, I have to be able to work the situation that's in front of me. And I, you know, I get it. Every year we kind of have a different topic. But the idea ultimately is that we come to a better understanding, okay, of the issue of suicide and how we can get on top of it. You know, how we can be. I actually had my phone and I had put some words in there, but proactive rather than reactive. A lot of times we're put in a reactive position and we're struggling, okay? But being able to be proactive, hopefully, is what our goals will be. You know, is just a person living life, whether it's a professional or it's just a community thing, you know, but being proactive, having that care and that concern. I do want to thank everybody that financially contributed to this. I'm not going to go through the list. It's right there in the program. Please read the program and let those people know if you know, go to their establishments. One was not on the list, the bagel maker. We didn't get them in time to get on the list, so we want to thank them, as well as Kay Halls and some of the other folks. I know that one of our speakers had to go. She had some information over here on the thing. Did we move it to out on the table? Okay. I'm not sure where it went. She had to fly out and didn't want to miss the flight. But I know Michelle's here. We do have lunch for you, catered from Kay Halls. I don't know whether we necessarily said that. So it's lined up kind of over here. The chicken salad's on this side of the back door. And then we've got some turkey and veggie boxes there for you. If you're going to the QPR training, okay, question, persuade, refer, okay, taking another step in what I can do. The training is full, filled up. I've got 30 slots. All those slots were full. It's going to be upstairs in B211, and it will start at 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. Let's see. Anything I'm missing? No? No? Okay, one last thought. I try to tell people, do not give me a microphone, okay, because it's not a good thing. So, okay, is the 5-minute mark going? I like that. So, prior to coming to work at the college, I was working in a rehab. And I had it was a residential facility. The ages were 18 to whatever age. And I had a young woman come in. She was 18. She was the youngest person we'd ever had. And as a therapist, you try to do what you can to connect. But I can tell you that her background, okay, was very traumatic, okay? Very hard to connect with her. She was like a sea urchin. Anybody familiar with the whole sea urchin, spiny, kind of, pointy, not real easy to pick up? Real hard to connect with. And I was getting ready to go home one night. I stopped by the day room. Everybody was doing their thing. Tech was like, hey, can you sit here a minute? So I sat there because I was having a difficult time connecting with her. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I can sit here for a minute. Tech went, did their thing. And while the tech was away, I was watching, and she was just so engrossed in this idea of anime. I mean, it was a major focus. So I watched her, I watched how she was like, whoa. And then tech came back, I went home. Well, the next morning I'm doing a psychoeducational group with 30, 35 people. And prior military, I spent time in Japan, and I'm somewhat familiar with the Japanese language and the syntax, the way you pronounce it and stuff. And I was talking about this subject, and I looked at her and I said, Chanji. I said, Chanji. And she's looking at me like, dude, you crazy or what? And some of the other people like, I don't know what's going on with this. Chanji. And I could see some people in the back starting to smile. And I looked at her again and I said, Chanji. And she's like, okay, what? I said, change. Okay, change. Change is going to happen every day. We're going to experience change. Not just her, but everybody sitting in here is going to experience change. Okay? Now, it might be good, it might be bad, might be big, might be small. Okay? But everybody's going to experience something about their life that's going to change every day. And yet, I don't meet a lot of people that tell me, hey, I get up every morning thinking something about my life is going to change today, right? No, we don't get up thinking something about our life is going to change. And so I said, you have Chanji, then you have Cho, ice. Cho, ice. See, we have choice. Okay? And this is where the empowerment comes from. This idea that change is going to happen that I don't have control over. I mean, I can't stop somebody from running a red light and hitting one of my family members. Can't stop that. But I do have, and this is the empowerment, I have the choice. I get to choose in how I deal with that change. I have choice. That's where the empowerment comes in. And when I realize that I have that, I have hope. I have hope. And so, as we move forward, hopefully everybody can come away, go away, take away, whatever the away is, okay, from this. And have this idea that if I deal with change, I can teach people to deal with change. And so hopefully we can look at that change and we can understand, hey, maybe I need to change some of me to help somebody else understand. Okay, look, you can change. There is change. You have the power to choose how that happens. You may not have the power or the control, because our culture, I'm generalizing, teaches control. Man, I get to control my environment, I control everything. And in the reality, I don't think we control as much as we think we do or want. And so this idea of understanding, okay, I get to choose how I'm going to deal with this. Maybe even helping our patients, our students, our clients understand, look, you have some power here. You have power. You can choose how you deal with this. You don't have to let yourself be affected the way that maybe you've learned from past traumas. So, first, second, lastly, thank you all for coming. I look at here and I think, okay, wow, steps, yeah, go. Awareness, okay. Does anybody have any questions before we kind of break? People are here to talk to. It's kind of nice with the lunch. You can grab a box and kind of sit around and talk to some people that maybe you haven't talked about or talked to before. So if I don't have any questions, again, chicken salad this side, turkey and veggie the other side. There's drinks in the back. So thank you, everybody, for coming.